By the time my lunch break ended, I already knew my birthday was going to pass without a sound. My phone lay face up on my desk, dark and still. No missed calls, no half-hearted text from my mother, no awkward voicemail from my father asking if it was still my birthday or if he had the date wrong again. Just silence, pressed flat against an ordinary workday in Midtown East. I refreshed my screen once, then again, nothing. This is a story created by the author of the Family Afterlight channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. I went to the break room for coffee, mostly so I would not keep staring at my phone like it had personally betrayed me. When I came back, a notification finally appeared. My chest lifted for half a second, then dropped. It was a social media alert. My mother had posted a photo of my younger brother, Jordan. He was smiling, arms crossed, standing in front of a co-working space with some vague slogan about innovation behind him. So proud of our boy for chasing his dream. The caption read, "So brave, so inspiring." I scrolled. Comments poured in. "You raised him right. Future founder right there. So exciting to watch his journey." No mention of me. No birthday emoji. No quick afterthought. I whispered, "Okay," to an empty office. At 3 in the afternoon, my coworker Nina leaned over the divider. "Didn't you say today was your birthday?" I nodded. "It is." She frowned. "You doing anything tonight?" "No," I said. Then, softer. "Probably not." She hesitated. "Well, happy birthday?" "Thank you," I said, and meant it more than I wanted to. By 6. I stopped expecting anything. That was the part that scared me the moment disappointment turned into routine. I packed my bag, rode the elevator down, and stood on the sidewalk with people rushing past me like it was any other Tuesday. On the train home, my phone buzzed again. Another comment on my mother's post. "Your son is going places." I closed the app. At home. I set my bag down and kicked off my shoes. The apartment was quiet. No cake. No call. No accidental message sent to the wrong sibling. I poured myself a glass of water and stood there, staring at the sink. I was not angry. Not yet. I was tired. Tired of being the reliable one. Tired of being the child who did not require celebration because I did not require rescuing. Somewhere between the quiet kitchen and the stillness of my phone, something settled into place. If this story resonates with you, stay with me. Sometimes the moments that hurt the least loudly are the ones that change everything. I did not make a wish that night. I made a decision. 2 weeks before my birthday. The bonus hit my account at 9:12 in the morning. I was on a call when the notification flashed across my screen. I muted myself, opened the banking app, and stared at the number until it stopped feeling abstract. $72,400. After taxes, after deductions. Money tied directly to a decision I had made under pressure that kept a portfolio from bleeding out. When the call ended, my manager said, "Nice work holding the line last quarter." "Alyssa." "Thank you," I said. My voice stayed steady. My hands didn't. That night, I called my parents. I told them the news because I still believed sharing mattered. "That's great." "Honey," my mother said. I heard dishes clink in the background. "Did you hear Jordan's accelerator invited him to speak at a founder brunch I did?" I said, "I also wanted to tell you about he's been working nonstop." My father cut in. "You should see the hours he's putting in." "I know," I said. "I just closed a tough year, and you always land on your feet." My mother said, gentle and final, "We're not worried about you." The line went quiet. Then my father said, "We're thinking of helping Jordan extend his runway a bit, just until the next phase." I said, "Okay." I hung up and sat with the silence. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for congratulations. I told myself this was what independence looked like. A few days later, my mentor Vanessa leaned against my office doorframe and said, "You look like someone who just swallowed a win without tasting it." "I'm fine," I said. She tilted her head. Say it again. I'm fine, I said, slower. She stepped inside. You don't celebrate. You inventory. That's my job, and your habit. I told her about the bonus. I told her how the conversation at home had drifted away from it like it always did. Vanessa said, You know what that means, right? It means they trust me. I said, It means they don't see you. She said, There's a difference. I went back to my desk and pulled up my spreadsheet. Not the work one, the personal one. I ran projections the way I always did, not because I planned to spend, but because I wanted to know what was possible. For the first time, I didn't calculate how much I should save to stay small. I calculated how much I could spend without asking permission. When my phone buzzed later that night, it was my mother again. Just checking in, she said. You're okay. Right, I am. I said, I've been okay for a long time. She paused. Good, she said. We rely on that. I ended the call and closed the spreadsheet. The number stayed with me, clear and undeniable. They had not noticed the money. I had. I did not wake up one morning and decide to buy a car out of spite. I woke up and opened my spreadsheet. I ran the numbers the same way I ran everything else in my life, slowly, twice, and without optimism. Income, savings, emergency buffer, monthly obligations. I let the figures argue with each other until the truth settled. This was not reckless. This was contained. At the dealership, the sales associate looked at my paperwork longer than he needed to. His name tag said Mark. He kept nodding, as if the numbers were explaining something about me he had not expected. You've done your homework, he said. I don't buy things I can't explain, I replied. He smiled, cautious. Most people start with the car and ask questions later. I started with the questions, I said. The car came after. We talked financing. I put down $58,000. I financed the rest at a rate low enough to be boring. He asked if I wanted to extend anything, protect anything, insure anything twice. No, I said. I want exactly what I planned for. When I signed, my hand did not shake. I called Vanessa as I walked out. I did something, I said. Her pause was brief. Tell me it was intentional. It was, I said. An Audi RS5. Sustainable. Boring on paper. She laughed once. Nothing about that is boring. I didn't do it to prove anything. I said. You did it to stop shrinking. She said. I did not argue. That evening, I met her in Dumbo. She leaned against the railing, phone already in her hand. Don't pose, she said. Just stand there. I did. The car was behind me, clean and quiet, exactly where I had placed it. Look like you're not asking permission, she said. I didn't smile. When I posted the photo, the caption took longer than the picture. Closed a difficult year at work. Bought something I've wanted for a long time. I hit post and put my phone away. By the time I checked again, messages were coming in. Colleagues, old classmates, people who had seen my work up close. Proud of you. You earned this. About time you did something for yourself. My parents viewed it within the hour. They did not comment. At 9:30 that night, my phone rang. My father's name filled the screen. I let it ring once before answering. Alyssa, he said, already tight. We need to talk about what you're doing. I'm listening, I said. There was a breath on the other end. Not concern. Control. My father did not ask how I was doing. He said, Your mother saw the post. I assumed she would. I replied. There was a pause, just long enough to signal disapproval. Buying a car like that sends a message. Alyssa, it sends one. I said, Yes, a message we don't recognize. He said, It looks impulsive. It was planned. I said, extensively, You don't need to explain the math. He said, People don't see spreadsheets. They see appearances. I'm not people. I said, I'm your daughter. He exhaled sharply. That's exactly why this concerns us. In the background, I heard my mother's voice, low and tense. She's always been sensible. This doesn't look like her, I said. It looks exactly like me. You just haven't been paying attention. My father's tone hardened. This family doesn't make financial decisions in a vacuum. I do, I said. I always have. That independence is something we admire, my mother said quickly. But you have to understand how this looks. Jordan is trying to build something, and I'm allowed to buy something. I said. With money I earned, that's not the point. My father said, the point is responsibility. I smiled without humor. You've never used that word with him. Silence followed. Not denial, not correction. Silence. Then my father said, we need to talk in person. About the car, my mother added. About money, I said. All of it. Another pause. This one longer. We'll discuss what's relevant. My father said. What's relevant is context. I said. I'll come. Tomorrow evening. You don't need to sound defensive. He said. I'm not. I replied. I'm being clear. When the call ended, I set my phone down and leaned back against the counter. My hands were steady. My chest was not. Vanessa called minutes later. You got the lecture. Not yet. I said, just the warning. They're rattled. She said, that's new. They think they can recalibrate me. I said, they always do. She replied, until they can't. The next afternoon, my mother texted the address and the time as if this were a business appointment. 7 p.m, Westchester County, I typed back. I'll be there. She responded with a thumbs up emoji. I stared at it longer than I should have. That night, I opened the folder on my laptop, the one I never talked about. I updated it carefully, adding dates, confirming figures, tightening language, not as ammunition, as insurance. When I closed the computer, I felt something settle. Not anger, not fear, readiness. If you're still listening, stay with me. This was the moment when being quiet stopped protecting me and being precise started to matter. I turned off the light and went to sleep, knowing tomorrow would not be a conversation. It would be a reckoning. The drive to Westchester pulled a memory forward I had kept filed away like an old receipt. Thanksgiving. Last year. We were all gathered around the dining table when Jordan stood up with his phone in one hand and a rehearsed confidence in his voice. I just want to share something quick, he said. I've been accepted into a founder hub. They focus on mental wellness platforms. Real innovation. My mother's face lit up. Oh, sweetheart. My father leaned back, impressed. This is the kind of thinking companies are desperate for. Jordan smiled, practiced and warm. They say the right idea at the right time changes everything. I nodded politely. No one looked at me. Later, when the plates were half cleared and the wine had softened the room, my father turned to me. How's work busy? I said. I led a stress test on a portfolio tied to emerging market debt. It helped avoid some serious exposure. He nodded once. Sounds technical. It was. I said. It mattered. My mother smiled in that distant way she used when she was already thinking about something else. Jordan, tell your aunt about the branding consultant you met. Jordan launched back into it. Decks, vision, momentum. I watched my fork rest untouched on my plate. At one point, my uncle said, "So when do we see returns?" Jordan laughed. It's not about returns yet. It's about positioning. My father raised his glass. You can't rush genius. I said, you can rush solvency. The table went quiet for a second. My mother cleared her throat. Alyssa works in risk, she said, as if that explained everything and nothing. Later that night, while I helped dry dishes, my mother said, you know he needs encouragement. So do I. I said. She smiled gently. You're different. You don't need it. In the car, driving home alone, I replayed that sentence until it lost its softness. You don't need it. What it meant was simple. Jordan's dreams were fragile, so they deserved protection. My results were solid, so they could be ignored. The memory stayed with me as I pulled into my parents' driveway the next evening. I sat there for a moment, engine off, hands on the wheel. They had applauded the story. They had overlooked the work. Inside the house, voices carried through the walls, familiar, confident. They believed they were right. That belief was about to meet numbers. I didn't start with suspicion. I started with pattern. Months earlier, my father had asked for help moving their accounts to online statements. Your mother gets overwhelmed by paper, he said. You're good with this stuff. I set it up, showed him how to log in, how to read balances, how to download summaries. I didn't save passwords. I didn't need to. Timing tells its own story. One night, after another call where my bonus had been brushed aside in favor of Jordan's momentum, I opened my laptop and pulled up my personal spreadsheet. I added a new tab. I labeled it neutrally. Transfers. The first entry came easily. $1,850. Third of the month. Memo line living support. Then another. Same amount. Same day. Next month. I stared at the screen. Then added a column. Duration. By the time I reached 30 months, the total at the bottom read $55,500, just in direct transfers. I called my mother the next day. Jordan moved again. Yes, she said. Closer to the city. It's better for networking. Long Island City, I asked. She hesitated. How did you know that I guessed? I said. Rent there isn't cheap. He needs to be where things happen. She said. You understand. I did. I pulled average rents. Conservative estimates. I added another line. I called my father after that. Is Jordan still paying for that founder hub? It's an investment, he said. They charge monthly, roughly $2,000 a month. I asked. There was a pause. Something like that. I added it. 30 months. $60,000. I didn't double count. I didn't inflate. I left gaps where I didn't have confirmation. Even with restraint, the range landed between $79,000 and $83,000. That night, I opened another tab. Comparison. 2 years earlier, I had sat at their kitchen table and asked for help with a down payment. $25,000. Alone. With terms. My father had folded his hands. It's important you learn to do this on your own. My mother had nodded. You're so capable. This will be good for you. I typed the number out slowly. $25,000. Denied. When I closed the laptop, my phone buzzed. Jordan's name. Hey, he said, too casual. Mom said you've been asking questions. I've been listening. I said. He laughed. You always overthink things. I track them. I replied. You're reading it wrong. He said. They believe in me. I know. I said. They finance you. Silence stretched between us. Why does that bother you? He asked. It doesn't. I said. It explains you. He exhaled sharply. You think everything is a balance sheet? No, I said. I think accountability is. After we hung up, I printed the spreadsheet. Not all of it. Just enough. I slid the pages into a folder and closed it carefully. The way you do with documents that change outcomes. This wasn't about catching anyone. It was about clarity. They had called me independent. What they meant was expendable. My parents were already seated when I walked in. My father stood near the window, arms crossed, posture rigid. My mother sat on the couch with her hands folded in her lap, lips pressed together in a careful line. Jordan leaned against the far end of the room, phone in hand, eyes flicking up when he saw me. You're late, my father said. I'm on time. I replied, setting my bag down. You said 7. He glanced at the clock anyway. Control habit. not necessity. My mother gestured toward the chair across from her. Sit, Alyssa. We're worried. About the car, my father added. About the story you're telling. My mother corrected. I sat. I didn't tell a story. I posted a fact. Jordan scoffed. You knew how it would look. I knew how it was. I said. That mattered more. My father's jaw tightened. This family values discretion. This family values image. I said. That's not the same thing. My mother leaned forward. People talk. They assume things when they see a purchase like that. They assume I can afford it. I said. They assume instability. My father snapped. Flashy behavior. Sudden money. I nodded once. Interesting. You never assumed that when Jordan flew to conferences? Jordan straightened. That's different. Explain how. I said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I'm building something. So am I. I said. I just don't call it a vision. My father stepped closer. This attitude is exactly why we're concerned. You're resentful. I'm observant. I said. There's a difference. My mother sighed. You've always been sensitive. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. I placed it on the table between us. I'm precise, I said. Jordan laughed, sharp and defensive. What is this a performance? It's documentation, I said. You taught me to keep records. My father frowned. We didn't ask for this. You asked for a conversation about money, I said. This is money. I opened the folder and slid the first page forward. My mother's eyes dropped to it. What am I looking at, transfers? I said. Monthly. Jordan's face changed. Why are you tracking that I noticed a pattern? I said. Patterns matter. My father picked up the page, scanned it, then looked at me. We help him. That's what parents do. I know. I said. That's why I didn't question it at first. I slid the second page forward. That's 30 months of $1,850. My mother's breath caught. That can't be right. It is. I said. I rounded down. Jordan stepped closer. You're twisting this. I'm adding it. I said. There's a difference. I placed the next page on the table. Founder hub fees. Conservative estimate, $2,000 a month. My father's voice rose. You have no right to audit this family. I'm part of it. I said. Or I was. My mother shook her head. We didn't realize it added up like that. You didn't want to, I said. That made it easier. Jordan slammed his phone onto the table. You're jealous. The word hung there. My father nodded once. That's what this is. I met his eyes. 2 years ago. I asked for $25,000 to buy a home. I offered terms. You said no. That was different, my mother said quickly. You were stable. Stability isn't a punishment. I said, it's a responsibility. My father said, only for me. I said, for him. It's optional. Jordan's voice cracked. You're trying to ruin me. I'm telling the truth. I said, those aren't the same thing. My father pointed toward the door. If you keep pushing this, don't expect forgiveness. I closed the folder and slid it back into my bag. I didn't come here for forgiveness. I said, I came here so you could see what you funded. My mother whispered my name. I stood. I've been quiet my whole life. That never protected me. Jordan stared at the table. My father said nothing. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door, the silence following me like a verdict. This time, I didn't look back. The days after the meeting passed without noise. No calls, no messages, no carefully worded apologies or late-night guilt texts. My parents went quiet in the way they always did when they believed time would smooth something sharp down for them. Jordan stopped reacting to my posts entirely, as if pretending I didn't exist might undo what I had put on the table. Vanessa noticed first. They think this will fade, she said, leaning against my desk. It always does for people who've never had to face consequences. I'm not pushing. I said. You're not fixing either. She said. That's new. I didn't tell her everything. I didn't tell anyone that some nights I opened the folder again, just to make sure the numbers still lined up. That the silence made room for doubt. Not about the facts, about myself. A week later, my mother called, just checking in. She said, voice overly light, "You sounded upset the other night." I wasn't, I said. I was clear. "We don't want this to turn into something it doesn't need to be," she said. "It already is what it is." I replied. She sighed. "Your father thinks you've been influenced." "By math," I said. "By bitterness." She corrected. "I didn't invent the transfers." I said. "I counted them." She didn't answer that. She said, "Jordan's under a lot of pressure." "I know." I said, "He's been underwritten for years." Her voice tightened. "You don't have to make everything so stark." "I do," I said. "That's how I understand things." After we hung up, I sat at my desk and stared at my screen. The folder icon sat there, unchanged. I didn't open it. 2 months passed, then 3. At work, the year closed cleanly. At home, nothing shifted. I thought maybe this was how it would stay, an unspoken fracture everyone learned to step around. Then one afternoon, Vanessa sent me a message. "Have you heard of a founder hub getting audited quietly out of state?" My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I typed back, "No." She came by an hour later. "It's slow," she said, "paper slow. But it's moving." I didn't smile. I didn't feel relief. I felt weight. That evening, my father called. Investigators reached out. He said, skipping any greeting. They asked Jordan questions. I leaned against the counter. About what? Fees, referrals, agreements. He said, "They say this could take time." "Yes." I said, "You knew." He said, "I suspected." I replied, "There's a difference." He lowered his voice. This didn't have to happen. I closed my eyes. It was already happening. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. When the call ended, the apartment felt smaller, quieter. I didn't reach for the folder. I didn't need to. For the first time, the truth was doing its own work. The second call came months later, and this time my father sounded older. "We need to talk," he said, not sharp, not commanding, careful. "I'm listening," I replied. "They're escalating," he said. "Lawyers, retainers, numbers we didn't plan for." I leaned against the kitchen counter and waited. "Your mother is scared," he continued. "Jordan is overwhelmed." "I understand," I said. He cleared his throat. "We thought maybe you could help. Just temporarily. You're the only one in the family who can." There it was. Not an apology. A calculation. "How much?" I asked. He hesitated. "The estimate is around $60,000. Possibly more." I let the silence stretch until it stopped being polite. "That's not help," I said. "That's a transfer of consequences." My mother's voice came on the line, soft and urgent. "Alyssa, please. This isn't about being right. This is about family. It's always about family when the bill comes due." I said. Jordan spoke then, quiet but sharp. "You don't have to punish me for their mistakes." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm refusing to erase them. My father said my name the way he used to when I was a child, like it was supposed to reset me. You bought a car that cost more than this. I bought it with my money," I said, "for my life. So you're choosing that over us," my mother said. I closed my eyes. "No, I'm choosing not to disappear." Another pause, this one heavier. "We raised you to be responsible," my father said. "You raised me to absorb." I replied. I unlearned that. I told them I would show up emotionally. I would answer calls. I would visit. But I would not write a check to keep pretending none of this was real. When the call ended, my hands trembled for the first time since this began. I let them. Then I breathed through it and poured a glass of water. 2 years passed. Jordan took a job that paid a salary instead of applause. My parents downsized their plans, quietly. We met for dinner once a month now. Conversations were shorter, more careful. When they asked about my work, they listened. Last week, my mother texted me first on my birthday. Thinking of you. Hope today feels like yours. It did. If you're still here, still listening, take this with you. Being the strong one does not make you the solution to everyone else's choices. You're allowed to stop being useful when usefulness costs you your future. If this story echoes something in your own life, stay connected. Sometimes hearing it out loud is the first boundary you ever set. That night, I turned off my phone and sat with the quiet I had chosen. It didn't feel lonely. It felt earned.